Hey everybody, my name is Shoreless. Welcome to yet another edition of Beneath Your Feet stream. Affenberg is already here in the chat. Good to see you. I hope the rest of yous are doing well. Here we are in the beautiful Drúadan forest on the Landreval server. We're going to see what kills us first. Maybe some wild beasts or maybe the lag. We shall see. So this is the Beneath Your Feet research stream, where every month we go explore a particular area of the Lord of the Rings Online, and we do this in preparation for my monthly-ish podcast by the same name. And let me turn my mic down. Looks like we've got a hot mic here. And we look for, goodies. We look for Easter eggs. We talk about lore. We talk about what we love about these areas, geography, history, all that stuff. And then we mush it all up and we put it into, like a 10, 15-minute bite-sized podcast, which should be out in a couple weeks. So this is where you guys come in. This is a participatory show. You are free to move about the cabin, jump in the chat, and help me out. And I'm going to need your help this month because we're talking about the Woses, the wild men of Taur Drúadan. So we begin our journeys tonight here in the warstead of the Helmingos. And already we have some creepy statues going on to tell us just where we are. And at this point in the story, this zone is one of the many zones of the Lord of the Rings Online. It's kind of trapped in the past, kind of like me and my musical taste. It's trapped in the past, and I'm going to try not to make you guys dizzy. I want to get a good shot of that because it's just so cool. So we are in, March of 3018 of the Third Age. I want to say 13 March. I can always remember this particular part of the story, not because I'm such a nerd with such a great memory, but because it's right around my birthday. Anywho, and this is the part of the Lord of the Rings where the Brohirrim are secretly trying to make their way through war-torn Rohan into Gondor to come to the aid of Minas Tirith. I mean, it's the ultimate, Hail Mary. Everybody loves this part of the story because it's like, what's going to happen? Are they going to make it? And then, one thing we don't think about is there even going to be a Rohan to come back to? Because it's easy to miss the part where Rohan is directly under attack while its huge armies are off trying to save Minas Tirith. Because the theory being, according to Amber, if Minas Tirith falls, we're all going down. So we might as well go and help them. Rohan will answer, even if Rohan was not there when the Westfold fell. But we're not here for the Brohirrim. We are here because when the Rohirrim enter this wood, they remember that it's kind of haunted. They start hearing some creepy ambient drumming, and they get some unexpected help along the way. So that's my introduction. How are y'all doing? What's going on in the chat? What are you up to? Are you excited for Before the Shadow? What are you at? You'll also notice, hopefully you can't hear it, but my laptop is being super loud, and I don't know if it's because it hates the zone, because I always have problems in this zone, or if it's just being fussy because it's jealous because I got a Steam Deck, but hopefully the performance will not affect today's stream. Tom TRW is here. What's up? How are you now? Are you the Drúadan expert I've been looking for? Not sure you're pointing that thing, bud. Oh yeah, check this out. This is one of my favorite bits of the zone. I think I'm going the wrong way already. Always a good sign. No, I'm going the right way. This is my favorite part of the zone. These guys just disappear. And what's funny is they don't stop. So you could be at the part of the story where Frodo's already destroyed the ring. These dudes are still riding for Gondor. It's pretty funny. Affenberg asks what my level is and calls me sire. You are too kind, sir. Or madam, to call me sire. I, alas, am but a petty lord on the internet and am deserving of no title. What level am I? This character is Dr. Roxo, the Rock and Roll Hobbit, who is capped out at 1 forte. He's my oft-neglected main character here on the Landreval server because most of the time I'm hanging around on the Treebeard server because I just like it. We got a great little kinship there, and I like the slow progress because, to be 100% honest, my LOTRO momentum has slowed down a bit these days. Probably pick back up when the Before the Shadow expansion drops, but I like the slow pace because it just allows me to go as I will. Yeah, Tom says that LOTRO has embraced time travel. You are 100% correct. I don't know if there was an official statement made or maybe it was just an idle comment by one of the devs on the forums, but they basically just at some point in the story, maybe right from the get-go, said, like, we're not even going to try to make the timeline correct. So we are going to get into some spoilers here as pertains to this zone and some of the stories. So if you are not super far along in your LOTRO journey and you are just desperate to keep things secret and safe, you may want to plug up your ears, because one big example pertaining to this part of the game and the story is that you somehow are able to both ride with the Rohirrim through this Drúadan forest and make it to Gondor. Like, you're able to get to Gondor with Faramir and then break away and get here to ride with the Rohirrim during the Battle of Pelennor. So, and that's just one of the very small time breaks that this game does. Really, it's really for the fun factor, right? What do you guys think? Do you guys hate the time crunch, or are you okay with it? All right, so the first thing we're going to notice are all these statues. I think the Rohirrim call these the Pukelmen, which I don't know what that means. I'll definitely, that will be one to look up before, as I'm writing the script for the next episode, the Pukelmen. Because these guys are also there at Helm's Deep. So let's go to Helm's Deep real quick. Yeah, Tom likes to time travel. That's pretty funny. You went from the wedding and then went to you went back in time. That's pretty funny. You're absolutely right. So if you do not play the game in order, and let's say you just jump in to the wedding thing, because let's say you start at Midsummer, because a lot of people came to check it out at Midsummer, you're gonna see Aragorn get married first and then go back to him as like a ranger, which is kind of funny. You'll see him as Strider. So this area here, I can't zoom in on it. Maybe we'll pop over there later. But the Dunharrow, which leads you to the Paths of the Dead, there's more of these statues. And I don't know off the top of my head what the connection is between the Pukelmen statues and the Drúadan. I guess they lived there for a little while. Or maybe the dead men of Dunharrow were of a similar history as the Drúadan. Oh, yeah, you're right, Tom. Tom was saying how no matter how long you've been playing, you end up kind of popping around Bree and things like that at various times. And you go through a time warp no matter what. Because when you go to Bree, I'm going to mount up here because this is taking too long. Because when you go to Bree, you're at that part of the story. But then when you do, for example, this is a pretty view. When you do, for example, the... ooh, I like that. That's pretty. When you do the... oh my gosh, Thievery and Mischief skirmish, that's like this period of time, the winter of 3018, when the brigands try to take over Bree. So yeah, this game plays with time a lot. So if you're like me and you hate those time warp episodes of Star Trek, it may bug you a little bit. So I'm glad you like it, Tom. It's just my brain sometimes, but it's also kind of fun. I've been experiencing that with Rings of Power, where because I like the Middle Earth so much and I like thinking about it, that even when they make weird decisions in Rings of Power or LOTRO or whatever, I don't mind it too much because it lets me think, because it gives me a chance to just think through, like, what were they thinking when they did this. What's the point? All right, so this area is super weird. These are the nameless things. Dagoon. I don't know what that is. I'm going to write that down. I think that I'm going to go out on a limb and say that that is the Drúadan word for these nameless things. So this is a weird spot. I don't remember if the quests give us any context, but it's easy to assume that this would be an old Gondorian quarry, and they too delved too deeply and too greedily, and they struck pay dirt, but they also struck the nameless things. Yeah, Nameless Things do give us kind of a Stranger Things vibe. I only ever watched season 1 of Stranger Things. I should go back and watch the rest. I don't care for horror that much, but I think Stranger Things was like sci-fi and kind of campy enough that it wouldn't bother me. Plus I have friends who were in it. So if any of you also are interested in the Lord of the Rings, the card game, my friends do a podcast called Cardboard of the Rings. Not Nerd of the Rings, that's a different thing. Cardboard of the Rings. And John, who's on that podcast, was actually an extra in Stranger Things. So I should watch it, 1, because I like sci-fi, and 2, because I know some extras on there, because it was filmed down here in the South. Well, it doesn't matter where you are, Tom. Here we go. I think the Stranger Things vibes always apply to the Nameless Things. All right, here we go now. We have made it. So our job at this point in the story, at this point in the game, is to initiate contact between the Rohirrim and the Drúadan, the Woses. Yeah, going back to the Nameless, they do pop up from time to time, and I think it's not too much of a stretch of the imagination to assume that if they were at the roots of the Misty Mountains, that they would be down here in the White Mountains, which is where we are right now. So I think that's pretty plausible. We see them again in Minas Morgul, where the sorcerers have kind of enslaved them, which I thought was kind of an interesting twist. I don't remember there being like a story that kind of explained that. I'm sure it's connected to the Mines of Moria story. And we see them again in, I believe, in Gundabad, right? Anyway, yeah, I'm extremely fascinated with the Nameless Things, and I really, really hope that they do something with it sooner rather than later. We all know that the Lord of the Rings Online is not too concerned, like they're in it for the long haul, which is good for us fans, but it's also frustrating for us fans because the next thing we're getting is going to fill in the gaps down here in Eriador, which is cool. It'll be cool to kind of finally see these gaps filled in, but it's also pretty annoying because I want to go east. We talked about this on a different podcast episode. Like, I want them to go eastwards because they've set up so much cool stuff eastwards into oh my gosh, Khand and Rune and all those eastern kingdoms that involve the Nameless and other things, so I think it could be super cool. Yeah, I wonder that too. Tom's saying that sort of his headcanon is, I'm assuming his headcanon is that all of the deep places of the world are connected. So if you're down here in like the Foundations of Stone is where we first meet the Nameless Things, you presumably they're connected to, where we are now, in the White Mountains. I think that's a pretty cool idea. I like that. I'm going to adopt that idea. And I really hope, I keep saying this, but I really hope that they give us a little bit more, little something to chew on, because on the Treebeard server, we just wrapped up Mines of Moria and we got into Mirkwood, and so I ran Narbogud more than I ever have, and man, like the Mistress of Plague, all those things are so interesting and so weird, and I think it's like one of those gray areas with the lore where they have so much room to play around, and so hopefully they will capitalize on that again soon after before the Shadow. Speaking of time travel. Anywho, we must get back on track here. I shall digress. I was thinking about where to go with this particular episode. I thought about going to the Iron Hills, in fact, because I think there's a lot of meat on that bone. But we did the dwarves. I've done the dwarves a lot lately, so I thought we could take a break and talk about Kugelmen, the Woses, who are somewhat dwarvish. I think they're interesting for a lot of reasons. Like, I've been watching Nerd of the Rings because he does awesome recaps for the Rings of Power, very thoughtful recaps. And they were talking about the importance of mystery in Tolkien's work and how he was perfectly comfortable not explaining things. And he doesn't explain the Woses at all. They're kind of like the Treebeard. They're kind of like the Ents. They just show up in the story. And so there's some there. They're connected to the to Haleth and to the Hymen of the First Age, and they lived in Hildorian and things like that. But because of their appearance and their manner, they were kind of oppressed and persecuted for like their whole lives. Oh boy, Tom's poking the bear. Tom wants to talk about Rings of Power. Let me finish my point. So, in a way, the Drúadan are kind of like the petty dwarves of mankind, because they are somewhat primitive. They've been picked on for millennia, and they've developed this interesting sort of primitive but inherently good culture. So we're going to explore around a little bit, see what we can see, and and tell Tom why I'm okay with Rings of Power before he has to go for dinner. So the Mithril thing, okay, here's the saving grace of the Mithril thing. There's again, if you're not watching Rings of Power, you're going to be confused. And if you are watching Rings of Power but you're not caught up, you may want to plug up your ears here for a second. I don't know what that is. So in the most recent episode last week, they did they made a weird choice, and they said that the Eldar are the elves, the Eldar, are fading, and Mithril can help them by somehow bathing them in the light of the Valar. And the basis for this theory is that there's an apocryphal story about how the light of the Silmarils somehow was cast into the mountain by lightning, and that's how Mithril was made. Sounds pretty dumb. Here's the saving grace. Number one, I think it's important. It's an important way for them to push the narrative of the fading of the Eldar, which of course pops up in the Lord of the Rings inappropriately in the films. I mean, because I think it's going to spur them to create the rings, right? So Celebrimbor, and then the people who work with him, the point of the Elvish rings is to preserve their kingdoms, Rivendell, and then the Grey Havens, and then Lothlorien. And so explaining, I think this Mithril thing is a cheap way, easy way of them explaining that, so that we're ready for it when the time comes. The other thing that I think is interesting is that even within the story, it's already noted that the story of how the Mithril creation story is already cast into doubt, because Elrond calls it apocryphal, just straight up. And the point that the dude makes on Nerd of the Rings is that this is also called the ADHD show, if your first time joining us. His point in the Nerd of the Rings with regards to the Mithril story was that it was prefaced earlier on when another character said, "You've been lied to," and so potentially that is setting up a reveal later that like maybe Sauron or Anatar put this idea of the Silmarils and the Mithril in Celebrimbor's head, or maybe it's just this elvish folklore that's been passed down, and Gil-galad and Celebrimbor are putting their faith in Mithril for no reason. I don't know. I'm interested to see how it plays out. I think it's been an okay show so far. Kind of like the movies. It's like they play with the lore in ways that I don't care for, but in general they have been doing a good job, and it's just fun to watch. So there you go. There's my soapbox for the Rings of Power. Okay, here we are in the Drúadan forest, meeting the Drúadan for the first time. I've already done these quests on this character, and essentially it's a lot of fetch quests where you're kind of winning them over and earning their trusts, and then the epic story progresses you through Gonbury Gon and his meeting with Theoden and the Rohirrim. So we are kind of the main point of contact for them. I really like this village. I don't know what's going on with the vines and the ivy and stuff, and why some is red, some maybe it's poison ivy. Maybe I should get off this tree, but I like it. I like the tree houses. I've never noticed those before. And again, I'm trying not to make you guys nauseous, but I want to get a good look up here. That's pretty cool. So what do you guys think about the Woses? Are they cool? Are they interesting? Are they just boring? Are they too primitive? Good job, Tom. Live and let live. That's what I say. Yeah, exactly. What about the droid attack on the Wookiees? No reason to be a poopy pants. Vonderskamp, welcome aboard. And I agree. I think they did a good job with this. I feel like this game does a good job of making real-world references without being specific. So like the flute and the percussion could be any kind of native culture. And then they've got like the tattoos and stuff, which are kind of referential to Pacific Islander and other native cultures. And then we got these weird basket lights, which I have no idea what they are or how they work, but they look really cool. Looks like we got a stake in there or something. Maybe it's like a bug, a glowworm. I don't know. What do you guys think? Glowing fish. It is a kind of fishy. That's true. It does make sense as the waterfall drowns out all sound. So you think the Woses are some kind of halfway point between hobbits and big folk? It's a little fishy. Like, as I said, Tolkien is quite comfortable with mystery, and we don't need to know the answers. In fact, I kind of like that approach, but it is interesting to think about. All right, Tom, have a good one. Because if you missed it, the hobbits are of the same kind, species, whatever, as men, as humans. And so it seems like the Drúadan, the Woses, are somewhere in between the two. Yeah, I think it's clear that the Woses are men as opposed to hobbits, but at their stature, you have to wonder if they're somewhere in between. And for their stature and their sort of odd appearance and things of that nature, they were persecuted for much of their time in Middle-earth. And so they became very wary of outsiders. And so the stories that develop around the Drúadan forest, where we are now, are kind of similar to all the many mysterious forests, which I think is an interesting trail to follow. That might be a good sort of structure for the podcast. Lothlorien, as well as the Old Forest and Fangorn, are all treated with a great deal of awe and mystery. And but we learned that their inhabitants are generally quite good. I'm trying to find a good view for you guys while I just ramble. And it's the same thing with the Drúadan forest. Because they became very wary of outsiders, the Drúadan developed, the poison darts and the drums, and, they became very sneaky, much like hobbits. And so this forest developed a reputation among the people, especially of Rohan, because Rohirrim were less learned and more wary than, say, Gondorians. Has developed a reputation as being quite spooky and haunted. And so you can imagine their surprise when they meet Gon. But what I was talking about just a second ago is the theme of forests within Tolkien's work. I think is extremely interesting, because forests are at once beautiful and terrible. And I remember a line from one of the Elvish poems that mentions tree tangle. I think it's one of the poems the elves sing when they're passing through Shire. And look at that, they got the same dances in Bree and all over the world. It's the one thing that unites everybody. And I remember the Tolkien professor expounded on that idea about the tree tangle, the idea that the forests are both home for the elves, but also in a way kind of binding them and an impediment. And so that whole mystery of the forest, I think, is very interesting because, like I said, they're living things, they're beautiful, but they're also terrible. And by way of their nature, forests are very secretive and scary, but also important and life-giving. And you don't hear those same kind of mysterious stories about plains, and it's really dark places like forests and mountain caves and things like that. Anywho, we've come upon the potluck. Clearly something is going on here. If I remember correctly, this part of the story is where some of the Woses' scouts were injured or killed, and we have to take part in their sort of grieving process. I guess I'm going to go back here and read these quests on the wiki, or go back to do them on a different character because I'm failing to remember some of the story. But we do have a great view up here. What are we looking at over there? That'd be Gondor. Let's see. Okay, that's one of the beacon nodes. I'm on doing right there. So what about what do I want to talk about? I guess I'm curious to hear what you guys think about the sort of backstory of the Drúadan. Do you think that in earlier ages maybe they were more similar to the other men we read about, and then because they had to hide, because they were persecuted, they became more primitive, let's say? More, I don't know, native? Or do you think this was always the way they lived, and that's kind of what led to their persecution? I want to hear your guys' theories as we take a look at a little bit more at the village, which is nestled here in the wood and also against the White Mountains. You have to stumble on anything really interesting. Usually this sometimes takes a while, but we always find something. So we're going to keep looking, see if we can find maybe an Easter egg or something. At least give you guys some motion sickness, maybe. I've been playing, I don't know if you guys ever played Deep Rock Galactic. Super fun game. It's been out for a while, but I've only just gotten into it recently. And you basically play as space dwarves. It's like sci-fi Moria. It's pretty awesome. But one thing you can do is double jump, and you just smash the space bar to like climb. And I keep trying to do that in this game, but this game does not have a climb mechanic. It could. That could be pretty cool. I'd do some like Breath of the Wild LOTRO. That'd be pretty cool. Obviously that's not going to happen, but... So if you see me like just jumping into a wall for no reason, that's why. Okay, here's something. Do we think there could be a connection between these stones and those in the Barrow Downs? That's very interesting. So lock this image in your brain, because before we finish things up, we're gonna pop by the Barrow Downs and see what we can see. But I don't know that there would be any lore connection. So last month we spent our time in the Brownlands and in the gardens of the Entwives, and we found something I'd never noticed before, which is the flower that's growing in come on, brain, that's growing in the Entwife's garden is the same as the one in the Old Forest. And I said, okay, well, there's a lore connection here with like the Entwives, but maybe it's just them reusing an asset because, you know, whatever. It's a game. Game development has its costs and its processes. But then when we went there, we saw that there was an inherent connection, like a literal connection between those spaces. So I'll be curious to see what we find here. Vonderscamp asks, do you think that when Iluvatar created the race of men, that he created several kinds of men, so the ancestors of the Drúadan could have awakened at the same time as the ancestors of the Edain? Yeah, I think so. I definitely think so. I don't know that, you know, the sort of biological rules that we tend to think of when it comes to genetics in our primary world apply. And so I think especially if we consider, which again, I'm pretty sure Tolkien confirmed this in the letters, if we consider the fact that the hobbits are a part of the race of men, then absolutely, yeah. So all the different what is the word you use? Yeah, different kinds of men. Yeah, I think so. Especially if we consider, you know, the Haradrim and the Easterlings. They're obviously men of a similar sort as the Gondorians and the Rohirrim, but they're also different. And so it's kind of the same thing. Oh, there's a quest. It's kind of the same thing with the Hobbits and potentially the Drúadan. But I don't know. I think it's just kind of interesting. Oh, there's our first lag spike. Well, we're not going to do any laughing, but I'm good. Thanks, though. Love a good laugh, but not today. Got things to do. So I guess this is going to be the main area of Drúadan. These are some quests I failed to finish up. We got bounties, hides, the repeatables. Hardly ever repeatables. Yeah, me too, Vanderscamp. I think they were definitely created of a kind when Eru made the world. I'm thinking more about their culture, though. Like, is this just kind of how they are? And the same way that hobbits appear to have a particular, some distinctive features every time we encounter them throughout history, including Rings of Power. Or, and so, you know, if we met a Drúadan in the First Age, would they still be living like this? Or did they kind of like devolve a little bit? Devolve's not the right word, but you know what I mean. Did they go back to living closer to the land because they were kind of forced to hide? I don't know. Don't know. All right. Well, we didn't find anything too amazing in here. It's entirely possible I overlooked some stuff. So let's crack on. And I want to check 2 more places to see if we can find some more connections between the Woses and other parts of Middle-earth. So I'm going to give one more sweep here of this main area, this main part of town. That's pretty. And then we're going to pop over to Dunharrow, and we're going to pop over to the Barrow Downs to see what we can see. A little fishing net there. I remember that fondly. I remember this log bridge quite fondly. Spent a lot of time here. Okay. Well, thank you, Drúadan Forest. We're going to say goodbye for now. And I'm going to pop over to... Where did you go now? Here comes the Grimslade. Underharrow, there we go. We're just speaking of time travel, we're just gonna use this bad boy to zip over there quick like. So we're looking for 2 things. We're looking for creepy stones with whorls on them, and we're looking at the statues. And I want to hear from you all if we are Do we think the dead men of Dunharrow were of some connection to the Woses? Maybe the Woses lived here, and then the men of the mountain kicked them out? I don't know. Let's see. The beautiful... Now we're on the other side of the White Mountains, a little bit further to the west. Yeah, my laptop is not happy tonight. That's good. I did buy a Steam Deck, and it did come this week. I feel like I'll make a video on this later, but LOTRO does run really well in there. You can't crank the resolution super high, so it doesn't look quite as detailed and crisp as it does here. Maybe not on the stream, but at least in my monitor here. But it runs like no frame rate loss or anything. Okay, yeah, obviously this is exactly the same kind of statue. So now, this was mentioned in the book, wasn't it? Like when they went to, when they were riding through the forest and they meet Gonbury Gon, doesn't like Éomer or somebody say that it reminds them of these statues at Dunharrow? Now I got some reading to do. Fun, fun, fun. This one fell down. His face fell off. Oh, buddy. Okay, I need one more round of theory crafting for you guys. One more round of glorious speculation. So we're coming up on the Dimmelt Road, which is going to take us to, you know, Paths of the Dead. And I believe, if I remember correctly, we're going to see that the stones that mark the road are going to be the same as those in the Bear Downs, possibly the same as those in the Drúadan Forest. I might be wrong, though. And so, my question then becomes, where did these fancy stones come from? Okay, I was wrong about these. First time for everything. Poor computer's about to explode. What's going on here? So let's get to the actual Paths of the Dead, and we'll see if those swirly stones, that's what I'm calling them now, these swirly stones were there or not. You gotta stay hydrated. No, just creepy old statue with some runes on it. I'm not letting this go, guys. I'm so sure of this. Oh, these are creepy orcs. Which is a pretty cool storyline. The idea was volunteer later. Nope, I was dead wrong. Okay, so scratch that theory. Let's check Barrow Down before we gotta go. Spooky, spooky. All right. Last stop of the evening. We're going to see if we can find some of those same stones in the Barrow Downs that we saw in the Drúadan Forest. There's a war pig. Step bud. Gosh. Oh, now the lag is striking. Oh boy. Hang in there. Buckle up, folks. Surf's up. Surf's up, boys. Yep. I'm 1-1. Folks, 1-1. Hello. Because I was wrong about the Dimmolt Road, but I was right about these stones. So, the question then becomes, is this just like that age-old chestnut? Is this just game developers reusing assets like the swirly stones? Or could there possibly be some connection between the Barrow Downs and the Woses? That is my question to you, chat. I have no idea. Because let's think about this. The Barrow Downs, which I expect are going to feature prominently in the Before the Shadow expansion coming up November. People just now. It's a little bit before the Lord of the Rings begins, but I have a feeling that it's going to play into some older history, like Cardalon. I think one of the zones is actually named Cardalon. And so the Barrow Downs were fortified, but then a fortified part of the Kingdom of Cardalon, and then it just became their burial mounds. But what in the world would the connection be between the Drúadan and the Barrow Downs? I have no idea. Founders Camp says the kings of Arnor were Woses. Yes, it all adds up. That's why they gave the hobbits the land. They felt a connection with the little folk. All right, so the only thing that's coming to mind now, and this is probably just a dead end, just some fun lore speculation. Nailed it, but the my thought right now is this. I think the most likely thing would be that the swirly stones are somehow connected to the Gondorian, Númenorian, Arnorian death ritual or grieving process or something. There's some connection there. They use these swirly stones as tombstones or headstones or something like that. And I bet the ones we saw in the Drúadan Forest, because the Drúadan Forest was a part of Gondor until Aragorn gave it to the Brohir, or to the Drúadan, maybe there were some Gondorian barrows before the wild men took residence. I don't know. That's the best I got. That's all I got. I don't know. I'm coming up short here tonight, people. That's a good theory, though. I'm going to stick with that one. Alright, this is creeping me out. We need to go... Let's go have a drink. This is creeping me out. We're going back to Bree for a quick pint before we call it a night. So what did we learn today? What did we learn? Well, nameless things. Fish lamps. Grieving Drúadan. Missing link. Whistles. Yo-yos. Swirly stones. And the Dimmolt Road does not have the same stones as the Barrow Downs. And yes, Founders Camp is correct. We did crack the code. This is the Lord of the Rings Da Vinci's Code. The Arnorian Kingdom was led by the Woses. You heard it here first, people. We'll be publishing a book due out in Bantam Publishing House late next year. The Lost Woses Kings of Arnor. We're going to be filthy rich, and we're going to be the toast of the proverbial town of Tolkien scholarship. And we're going to go to Mutz, and we're going to get booed, and it's going to be hilarious. Okay, I came to Bree to escape the creepy Barrow Downs music. It is not turning off. Bree is haunted. We're already in there. And I think the lag... I don't know why I came to the laggiest part of all of Landreval when I'm trying to escape the lag, because you know we're about to come upon like 15 bands just all blaring at the same time on the roof of the Prancing Pony for no good reason. Look, there's a shirtless dwarf. It's ridiculous. Come on. Creepy music, stop. There we go. Phew. It's still creeping me out. So that's the highlight of the evening. We didn't learn a lot about the Drúadan, but we did break the game in that the creepy Barrow Downs music will not stop. I'm haunted. Yeah, bound. Yeah, absolutely right. Vonderscamp says the Downs will never leave me. I shouldn't have touched that bit of treasure. I'm gonna drink this away. Okay. And I don't want to sound like a country club jerk, but I do not experience this kind of lag on Treebeard. Maybe that's why I've been hiding out on Treebeard and avoiding Langerval. All right. Gosh, that's so funny. All right, well, I think that's my cue. I think it's time to go. So, cheers, everybody. Thank you for stopping by. You can check me out at Shoreless Skies. Wow, I'm turning the music off. This is creeping me out too bad. Stop it. At Shoreless Skies on Twitter. That's where all of my news gets posted on the regular. To find more about Beneath Your Feet, it's on anchor.fm/LOTROBYF. And, excuse me, the replay for this, as well as all the upcoming episodes, past episodes, and just random live streams when I feel like it, is at youtube.com/ well, it's not /LOTRO Beneath Your Feet, but /C/LOTRO Beneath Your Feet. You can just search it up. I'm going to go ahead and sign off here and go cower under the sheets because the creepy Barrow Downs music is following me wherever I go. I hope you'll have a lovely evening. This has been Beneath Your Feet. My name's Shoreless. Thank you for joining me. I hope you all have a great week and keep looking forward to this is a terrible sign off. Keep looking forward to Before the Shadow. It's going to be great. Nighty night.